morning,
Yeah,
everybody.
now we're good.
All right.
Sorry.
Good morning, everybody. It is Sunday, May the 28th. This is the Oil Drop Podcast. I am your host today, James Paul McCartney on Reddit. And I have Adam with me, Sweet44722. Arun, a Lunatic 5, will be joining us shortly. We've been pretty tough to get a hold of lately. I know that. We haven't done a podcast in quite a while. What we're going to be doing here today is it's our postseason wrap edition. We haven't done it. It's obviously a few weeks late. The reason for that was there was never a weekend that all three of us were here. So this is the first opportunity that we actually had to do it. So we're going to talk about the Oilers postseason, maybe some summer expectations, 2017 draft, and then we'll do player grades for the year as well. So I think what we'll do is start off with the playoffs. So obviously they lost in 7 games to the Ducks. The big story, I guess, going throughout that series, besides, like Kessler versus McDavid, was Jordan Eberle's lack of production. 0 goals, 2 assists throughout the playoffs. I don't know. Adam, what were your thoughts on the postseason and the Oilers season as a whole?
Postseason, I thought getting the Game 7 around 2 in a season in which we weren't... The goal wasn't to make the playoffs in the first place is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I've repeatedly said we lost that series 4-4. We really should not have lost that series. I'm not going to sit here and blame the referees because, in Game 5 we let a 3-goal lead slip with 3 minutes to play. Regardless of whether or not the winning goal or the tying goal was debatably goaltender interference, they let in 2 goals before that, right? It's one of those things where it sucks, but they dug their own grave kind of thing.
Yeah.
As for the season as in a whole, I think it qualified as success. After the past few years we've had, and the season that we did have, I think you could say that this season was a success. I don't know if he qualified as a failure just because he got knocked out of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. In terms of performance, so I know you mentioned Eberle. It's hard because we've in the past as a fan base have had a very bad habit of scapegoating a player for whatever it be, whether it's a season.
Yeah, they always want a whipping boy.
Yeah, absolutely. The whipping boy is perpetual, and it unfortunately they turned on Eberle this season, and whether or not it's warranted for the playoff performance, I don't know if you can justify it or you maybe could, but at the same time, Eberle still put up 50 points this season. Like, he wasn't a useless player. He was third on team scoring. He didn't perform in the playoffs, and that's disappointing. But he's also given a completely different role in the playoffs than he was in the regular season. So I think that's going to play in a lot more than many of us think in decision making in the future.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions when it comes to Eberle. Everyone is so eager, so ready to get rid of him immediately after the playoffs. And even during the playoffs, people were already talking about it. And it's like, okay, like you said, in a down year for him, he got 20 goals, 50 points. He's still scoring at an NHL top 6 clip. Mm-hmm. And people are just so excited and ready to trade him. And I'm like, well, for what? Like, everyone knows that we're not happy with him, so we're obviously trading from a position of weakness again. Hall and Larson, and then the season as a whole, pretty big success. Also, kind of like what you said, it sucks that they lost the series to Anaheim, but that Game 5 where they're letting 3 goals in 3.5 minutes or whatever it was, like that's on them. I remember I was so upset with them after that game. I wasn't mad. I was like hurt. I was emotionally hurt that they lost that game. I was so upset. But on the whole, definitely a successful season. So
I remember you sort of just saying that you were avoiding Facebook for the rest of the day. Like, you were dating the next day too.
I didn't go on Reddit, and I just avoided Twitter and everything else because I know that the internet was gonna have a field day with that one.
Yeah, no kidding. Did they ever?
Mm,
It's. I mean, it's interesting because you can look at what the coaches have been saying, and you kind of infer a few things. And then there was this article from, I think it was Stauffer, or it was Remenda, sorry, who was saying that Eberle's practice habits
mm.
were able to be criticized, and it seems like
That's Remenda,
everyone
though.
everyone and their grandma turned on him.
Yeah, that's Remenda. I don't know. I'm not surprised that he said something. I'm not saying that he's wrong, but it's just I feel like there's not really a good time to start talking shit like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The season's over. Like, let's turn the page here. Try and prepare for the draft, free agency. Uh, Maybe Eberle's practice habits do need a kick in the ass. He's got all summer to get himself sorted out. I'm sure that they had exit interviews, so it just seemed unnecessary to me. That's all.
Now, I know we're gonna be rehashing an old point here, but we talk about the Hall Larson trade, and what a
Mm.
difference it made in our lineup, and that we did technically lose that trade because of the value of the players at the time. If we do trade Eberle, is that a trade that we can afford to lose a bit on, or do we have to be at an equal or above value of trade for Eberle?
I feel like it has to be a pretty equal trade for Eberle because when we got rid of Hall, there's still the idea. Okay, we have a lot of top six forwards. They had just drafted Puljujärvi, and now are here a year on. We will be trading another top six forward. Puljujärvi, his development has been questionable. Like, I'm not saying that he's going to be a bust, but it's been a little questionable. So yeah, I just feel like there's less room for error this time around. Whereas with Hall, you could say, okay, we need to address a team need in the worst way. So hopefully Puljujärvi will be able to replace Eberle next season, but I'm not expecting that.
I think the interesting thing for me is it's after you get rid of Eberle, who's the top forward on the right side there?
No
Draisaitl,
one.
but I mean,
Yeah,
if he plays center, then that's kind
exactly.
of gone.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's Puljujärvi
Hmm.
or
And
Pakarinen or
as you go down the lineup, it's like, okay, there's Puljujärvi, Cassian,
I think Pitlick.
Pakarainen, I guess, Pitlick if he manages to ever stay healthy. It's after Eberle, there are no top six forwards. That's really what it is,
Mm.
assuming that Draisaitl plays center.
So,
So
so then moving into the draft, I know we're skipping ahead a little bit here, but if we look at the draft, is this kind of a need that the Oilers need to address now? We need more forwards.
yeah, I was gonna say that actually because for years and years it was defense that was killing them, and I feel like their top six at the NHL level is pretty decent. And coming out of juniors this year, they've got Ethan Bear and Caleb Jones, so that's a couple of really solid players that are gonna they're
Zayat,
gonna have a lot of ice time
and
in
there's
the
Zayat Pagan
AHL
as well
next
too.
year. Yeah, so Pagan, they're gonna bring him over even better. So I feel like their blue line is actually pretty set. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, but all things considered, the blue line, it actually looks pretty decent for the first time in, like, I can't remember the last time.
Probably a
I'm
decade.
actually like a decade, which is pretty sad, but that's what it is. And so forwards are a big thing for them this year, I think, because who do they have coming up? Tyler Benson and Jesse Puljujärvi are their two offensive forwards. Benson's already sort of showing that he's got major health issues. He did score 42 points in 33 games last year, so if he can stay healthy, I feel like he's a great pick. And then Puljujärvi, he did well as an 18-year-old. I just hope that his trajectory continues to go up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough to say. So yeah, I feel like forwards are definitely a big thing for the Oilers this year, because after Puljujarvi and Benson, I'm looking at their list of prospects, and it's like, okay, they've been relying on like free agent signings a lot. I feel like, people like Drake Caggiula coming in, and Matt Benning, who's a defenseman, but still, like, the draft hasn't panned out for them very well.
Yeah.
And it needs to start.
I'm trying to find, because I know obviously we were talking about before we started Spencer Fu, and he hadn't decided to sign anywhere yet. As of right now, it doesn't seem like he has, but he did play. Obviously, he's from Edmonton, and he played for the Bonneville Pontiacs for a few years. I have a couple friends that actually played with them apparently. So that, I mean, it does definitely seem like the Oilers have gone the route of addressing the immediate need of forwards by going either college or to signings. And whether that's, I mean, it's a good move in the sense that they need to do it, so it's an appropriate move. But at the same time, it's rather concerning. That means that if we draft anyone now, we don't necessarily expect them to play forward for us within the next 2 to 4 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Least, right? So it's one of those things where it's like it needs to be addressed now, but it also probably could have been addressed last year or the year before.
Or the year before, yeah.
I
mean, realistically, we're looking at probably the 2014 or 2015 draft now for people that were drafted that year and grabbing NHL jobs. And I'm looking at forwards drafted. There's McDavid, obviously, Draisaitl. But other than that, there was 2 forwards drafted in those 2 years. So Liam Coughlin and Tyler Vessel. And do you know much about them? To be honest, I'm not super familiar with them. Are they high touted?
Vessel, I remember, had a relatively good season, but I think he was injured at one point. I don't remember anything about Coughlin. I haven't heard anything about him since he's been drafted.
Liam Coughlin, I don't know. Plays for the University of Vermont.
Is it Taylor Vessel or Tyler?
Tyler, with 1 S. So anyway, what I'm getting at is that the pipeline for forwards is pretty dry. Going back, to 2013, you've got Slepyshev, who's a useful player, but he's not a core player. He's not a top 6 forward, really. Bogdan Yakimov, he's never coming back. Kyle Platzer, Adam Muir, Evan Campbell, Greg Chase, like none of those guys are NHL players. So they got to start planting the seeds here now with the 2017 draft. Take as many offensive dynamos as you can. Draft skill, you can pick up your refrigerators in free agency.
Well, and see, that's the thing, is that it's a little, I don't want to say concerning, but maybe disconcerting that the T-Mac Chia trademark is the Coke machines that can move. Or sometimes don't move.
Or sometimes don't move, yeah.
Yeah, so and the NHL's been trending towards a faster game. We're not a small team anymore. Puljujarvi's huge. McDavid's not exactly a small kid. Yeah, we obviously have Lucic, Letestu, Nurse, Cassian. We're already a big team. Maybe it's time to address the it's a little odd because we were, 4 years ago, even 2 years ago when we started the podcast, we were talking about how the team needs to be bigger because we're too small, we're getting pushed around. Now we're talking about how the team has to be a bit smaller and more skilled.
It's hard to balance that, though.
Absolutely.
To have guys that can actually skate with size as well, like that's hard to do. So, you're talking about power forwards like Lucic is not a great skater. I'm trying to think of who's the best possible combination of those numbers.
Right now, Cassian.
No, I'm thinking NHL wide, not just the Oilers.
Anze Kopitar.
Yeah, Joe Pavelski. He's a good one too. So, those players are hard to get. So
there's a reason they're so highly paid, and there's very few of them.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was looking at Vessel here. Vessel played for U of Nebraska, Omaha. Played 39 games this year, had 35 points. So
hang on. Arun's online. Can we add him to the call?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if he was injured or what happened, but he's not playing a whole lot of hockey. Well, let's see. So we talked about the draft. We're obviously drafting at 22nd this year. James, who do you look at around 22 to?
Um, there was one guy that grabbed my eye. What was his name? He's from Saskatchewan. What was his name? Is it Cole Lind, maybe?
Hello? Oh, there we go.
You there? Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay. So Cole Lind is one that kind of catches my eye. He played for the Kelowna Rockets this year. He is a right wing shot. So he's 6'1". He only weighs about 175. So he's got some weight to put on. But he got 87 points in 70 games last year. He's the leading scorer on the team. So he's not, riding off of anyone else's coattails. I think he's a good option for them at 22. Another one, realistically, at 22, if you're looking at, you want to do the Russian route again, Klim Kostin might fall down that far. He's a pretty highly regarded Russian as well. But after Yakupov, I don't know. I've soured a little bit on Russians.
Well, I think that depends how Pagan does.
Dues, yeah.
There's, for me, I've heard a lot about Yamamoto and Suzuki. And Yamamoto
Yes,
right
please.
now in the NHL rankings has him at 17. You didn't get to see where he was on Bob Max because that's up to 11. But do you guys, with Lindgren being as highly regarded as he is, would you risk taking him in the first round if he dropped that far? Although I doubt he would go at 22.
Timothy Lindgren?
Yeah.
He won't drop that far to 22, but if he did, yeah, I would take him.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
would be the best player left.
But who is?
I still think he's going to be a top 10 pick. But
Who is?
We could have that situation last season.
yeah,
with,
he definitely did.
Am I lagging?
Yeah, we were 100% fine until you came around.
Damn it! Sorry, man. Continue.
So what do you guys for this year? For this year, so obviously last year we had Alex DeBrincat be the big guy to drop more than everyone expected. He got drafted by Chicago, and now he won the CHL Player of the Year again. So who for you guys is that player that's going to drop a fair bit, but end up being, I don't want to say steal, but probably like a overlooked, very good player the next couple of years?
I have to look up his stats, but for me, it's going to be Kyler Yamamoto. I'll look up his stats and then I'll support my argument.
He has 99 points in 66 games for the Spokane Chiefs.
Yes. No, I want to figure it out in context. James, do you have anyone?
Someone who might drop quite a bit at the draft. Honestly, I don't really know. Lindgren is an easy answer, to be honest with you, because he's been scouted for a few years. I feel like he's one of those people that maybe got over-scouted. Klim Kostin, Russian power forward, 6'3". I feel like he could drop. A lot of it's because of the Russian factor. Other than that, no, I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really researched that enough. So those are my two answers, though.
One of the ones, there's Nicholas Suzuki is the other one who people were expecting might drop a little bit, but just because he's listed online as 5'11", 180, which means he's probably around 5'9 and a half, 5'10". They always add a few centimeters. So but apparently he's according to his elite prospect profile, he's built like a brick. Which yeah, fine, but it's one of those things where it's debatable whether he'd be overlooked, but in the past few years, size hasn't been as big of an issue. But at a point when you're shorter, that kind of happens. So I think Suzuki could drop a bit. I don't know if he'll drop to 22. Yamamoto at 22 would be nice, but I have a feeling that they'll both be gone before we get to 22.
Yeah. See, the thing about Yamamoto is that he's one of those. He reminds me a lot of basically DeBrincat. But the thing is, unlike DeBrincat, where it was clear that, at least in the first, when he was drafted, that he was sort of riding on the coattails of McDavid, he doesn't really have anyone to ride on the coattails of in this season. And as a 17-year-old or 18-year-old, I don't know the exact age, he's born in 96. Nope. Kinu Yamamoto. Oh, Kyler is there. I don't know why it brought me up like that. Okay. Well, looking at it in that perspective, Kyler is born in 98, so what is he, like 17, 18 now? He led his team in scoring for the Spokane Chiefs. Now, Spokane Chiefs are basically a shell of its former self, but they still did finish third in their division, which Western Conference for the wildcard division, basically. And just outside of getting a spot there. And, in that perspective, I think there's a lot of potential there for him to be a successful NHLer. Because in my opinion, the hardest thing to do in the NHL is score. And when you get a guy with that talent to score, I think you should generally go for a guy like that. Obviously, it's going to be a huge risk kind of pickup, but I think it could turn out something like an Eberle late pick, where everyone is sort of like, oh, he's pretty talented, but he's pretty small. And then they pick him up. And then, it turns out that, like, oh, there was a lot here, and he can play on the NHL ice and put up, like, 25 goals a season at least.
So what are the likelihood you guys think that they'll move the pick?
Unlikely. I don't think. The 2017 draft, from what I hear, not a high-end draft. I don't feel like the first rounder has a ton of value for them this year. I mean, it's still a first-round pick, but it is 22nd. I just don't see it happening. I don't know what they would trade it for.
See, I'm of a differing opinion for that one. I think I think it's too valuable for them to trade it. As in, like, it's more valuable to the team than it is for them to trade it and get something in return. Simply because of the X factor that a draft pick provides. Like, you have a prospect, selling that prospect too has value when you're looking for trades, the trade deadline and whatnot. And when you're also looking at it from replenishment of forward perspective, eventually, like, you have to be able to replace your subpar wingers and whatnot with something in your depth chart. And when you have prospects to replace it with, it's much better than, say, a bottom six forward that you're crossing your fingers will be a top six forward.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I don't imagine they'll be moving the pick just because this year especially doesn't hold a lot of value. Like you said, Arun, it's one of those things where it's, it's valuable, but it's not in the same sense as it is to the team. Like trading higher, and like if we had third or fourth pick this year, that'd be worth trading because it'd be much more valuable. But with being 22nd and the depth in the draft this year, it's almost better just to pick a glut of forwards than risk trading for something that we don't know how it's going to turn out.
Draft skill.
Yeah. So the other way we can look at this then is, do they do anything in the near future to ensure that they can protect certain players in the draft?
Like making side deals with Vegas, you mean? Or
Right.
I can see it happening, but it's definitely going to... I can see bottom round draft picks being sent. Not bottom per se, like bottom, like 7th or 6th, but I can see like a 3rd or a 4th being moved to make sure that Brossoit doesn't get taken. Because if Brossoit gets taken, we are fucked for any kind of goaltender depth. Like, after, what's his name? Talbot and Ellis, we don't have anyone.
That's not unusual for goaltending depth, but that's it's one of those things.
It's not. It's definitely not unusual, but it's not something that is sustainable.
No, it's definitely one of those things where if we lose Brossoit, then our next option at backup is to sign a free agent because Ryan Ellis has not played enough games to be a vote of confidence in
Nick Ellis.
Nick Ellis.
So.
Not
Nick
Ryan
Ellis.
Ellis. Ryan Ellis.
Damn it.
Should be playing
It's Nick Ellis.
defenseman.
Ryan Ellis is the Nashville.
Phenomenal
defenseman.
playoffs. by
I
the
mean,
way,
Ryan Ellis is still probably better on a defensive end or as a goalie than Gustafsson was. So
Yeah.
Yes. Hey,
Yeah, maybe
don't
we'll
catch-
sign Gustafsson
Yeah.
again.
Hmm.
No. I don't know. I would not want them to take Brossoit, obviously, but I don't know who I want them to take. Like, I guess Brossoit would be the worst option, but even if they did take Brossoit, I wouldn't panic. Ultimately, he's going to play like a dozen games next year, even if they do have him. So, anyone else that they're taking, like Reinhart, Kara, maybe Pouliot, like those are even more inconsequential in my opinion. But
Yeah.
I'm not hugely worried about the draft expansion now.
I don't think many fans on the whole are, but I think a lot of fans are overestimating how willing, and I mean NHL wide, that the Vegas is willing to take their bad contracts, just to fill up their cap floor. Like they're not going to take all the bad contracts; they're going to take good players as well.
Yeah.
For our hope, we cross our fingers and hope that they take Pouliot. But I think it's more likely that they take someone like, Cassian, Letestu, or Brossoit than they taking Pouliot.
I could see Cassian and Letestu being protected.
But who for then?
Well,
Who do they expose as a result?
I had pulled up a thread earlier. I'm not going to try to find it because I have to stay on the screen. Let's see here.
So you got Lucic, Nuge, Draisaitl, Eberle. That's 4 forwards. I have Cassian protected.
Cassian and Letestu.
Okay, Cassian.
Hold on.
5, 6.
That's too many forwards, isn't it?
No, it's 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and a
Is it?
goalie.
7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and goalie. So 11 players?
So Lobby Dangle, who had a list. It was Draisaitl, Lucic, Nuge, Eberle, Maroon, Cassian, Letestu as their forwards.
Yeah.
Clefbaum, Larson, and Sekera as a defenseman, and then Talbot.
It's really obvious.
So, I mean that's
That would involve exposing Eberle, would it?
no. I said Eberle in there.
No? Okay, sorry. I'm doing this off of voice.
Dre, Lucic, Nuge, Eberle, Maroon, Cassian, Letestu. So it would be Pouliot, Pockerin, Fane, and Brossoit being exposed.
Pouliot,
Yeah.
Fane, Pakarinen, and Brossoit.
Mhm.
Which, I could see that being the list because that makes sense. Out of that, I mean, realistically, if Vegas wants to go with an NHL player, Benoit Pouliot's not a bad option in there. He's not a terrible player. He had a god awful season. In which he turned into the whipping boy before Eberle was a whipping boy. But I don't think he's the worst option on that list. Reinhardt's not getting picked. Fane is over.
Reinhardt could get picked.
I don't.
I could see a world in
Reinhardt
which
getting picked.
they decide to go for an X factor and go for Reinhardt, but
Yeah,
there's definitely safer picks. Yeah,
I see Reinhardt going before someone like Fane.
Yeah.
I could see Reinhardt. I think it's unlikely, but I could see
it's
it.
unlikely. Let's be honest here. It's definitely unlikely, but there is a world in which it would happen.
I mean, yeah, in theory, but you talk about players that would be useful now to a budding NHL franchise that needs to ice a team, and Griffin Reinhardt doesn't really come up as one unless you're gonna put him on 7th D, in which case whatever. But I think actually an interesting option.
Well,
I mean, go ahead.
I mean, one thing is 100% for sure, in my opinion, for the 22nd round draft, 22nd overall pick, is that we don't know who the hell is going to be available at that point. Because if you looked at it, like Gauthier was a player that was supposed to go much earlier in that draft last year. I'm looking at last year's draft, but he went 21st.
Gauthier.
Julian Gauthier. I can't pronounce French names.
Okay,
Sorry.
Julian Gauthier. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Max Jones is also someone that was expected to go a little bit higher as well, purely based upon the fact that he was one of the leaders for the London Knights, and he went 24th. And that's not including some of the players that fell to the second round that we weren't expecting to. So definitely one of the big factors in all of this is how the organization flexes their options based upon who becomes available, in my opinion. So let's say the organization had a list of players. This is making an arbitrary list. I'm going to pick some random players. Let's say they had, based upon who they have available to them in 22nd. Let's say they had Yamamoto first, Nick Hague second, Suzuki third, and I don't know, Lind fourth. And then suddenly Liljegren falls to them. There isn't really a need for, in terms of a positional need, we don't really need defensive prospects. But do you imagine a world in which they would accept a trade or draft Liljegren and then trade him right away based upon that? Because that's the really insane stuff that would happen at a draft. But could you see a world in which they trade away that draft pick to say Vegas for whatever prospect or whatever that they have available to them? I'm not sure what all it is at the time. And they guarantee that this player will be taken. Would you be happy with that?
Okay, let's say they trade their first round pick for the guarantee that they take Pouliot.
Yes.
That's what you're getting at?
A lower level prospect. Or a mid level.
No, I would not be happy with that. I'd be pretty furious, actually.
Yeah.
It would still free up $4 million in cap space.
Fuck cap space, man. It's not debilitating for the Oilers yet.
Exactly.
I would be pretty furious if the Oilers did that. Pouliot can stay for one more year, and then maybe they can buy him out.
$4 million is not detrimental next year.
Yeah, McDavid's contract doesn't kick in until the season after next. So that's when they really need to have the $9.7 million in cap space available, or whatever his cap hit is going to be. For next year, no, not a huge thing. So I don't like Pouliot. I don't really want him on the team anymore. But for one more year, I think I can stomach it.
I mean, I still think Benoit Pouliot is a useful player, which is why I think there's a possibility he'll be taken. But after the season he had, I wouldn't be at all surprised if he doesn't get picked. But at the same time, I think he still possesses more value to the Oilers than someone like Pakarinen does. Which, Pakarinen is a good fourth line player, but that's about it. Pouliot, as of right now, even when returning in the playoffs, was still playing penalty kill, was still playing hockey. He wasn't, obviously he had a terrible season, but he was still a relatively useful player. Versus Pakarinen is that guy you bring in when someone's injured.
Yeah, with Pouliot, if they take him, that you're getting someone that can step in right away. He is not a prospect. He is an NHL player. He's going to get you some points, assuming he plays a full season and he's healthy, you're looking at 35 to 40 points. He's not amazing, but he'll be an NHL player. So if Vegas wants to be competitive, they need NHL players. That's kind of maybe the draw for him. I don't know.
I guess as a final talking point of the draft, you are the New Jersey Devils GM, Shiro. You get the choice between, I don't know how to freaking pronounce his name, Nico and Patrick. Who do you pick?
Nico Hischier and Nolan Patrick. I'm leaning towards Hischier. Nolan Patrick hasn't played. He played a full season last year in his draft -1 year. But if you look at his entire hockey career before that, he's been injured since he was 12 years old. And I don't know if that's conditioning or if that's medical facilities available or whatever, but injuries are already a huge part of his resume. And Hershey, he has played well. I think that he's just a safer pick. And with the Devils and the Flyers, like I think that the Flyers are more are more set. I think that they can maybe what's the word? Take a risky pick. I don't think the Devils can afford to blow this. So I think that they just take the safe pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think my problem is the rumors that have been flying around that Patrick is a little bit of a guy that gives up very quickly.
Really?
And yeah, that's a rumor that's going around, but there's no real truth in it. But there's not necessarily any truth in it. But one of the things that is interesting as well is the fact that Patrick is still growing, and he's already 6'3".
Yeah.
Whereas Nico was just 6 foot, and at a lower weight class. And his country is different. If you're Don Cherry.
Yeah, he is Swiss. That motherfucker. For 6 foot versus 6'3", like it's a big difference, but 6 foot is not small. So at that point, 6'3" versus 6 foot, like it doesn't sway me. It's not a huge thing for me. If we're talking like 6'3" versus
we are
5'10",
still talking on the level of Nurse versus like McDavid. That's the weight difference and the height difference there.
McDavid's not small though.
He's not. He's 6 foot.
Yeah, exactly.
Nurse is also a lanky motherfucker. Like he hasn't.
He is. Yeah. Yeah, he hasn't filled that either. But that's the same thing about Patrick, is that he hasn't filled that either.
But Nurse, at that age, Nurse didn't have so many injury issues. So, to me, if I'm the Devils, I go Hershey. Maybe the Flyers even trade down, because realistically, they need forward prospects in quantity, not quality. Although they do actually need some quality.
No, they need forward prospects.
But it's
they've got good deep. Yeah, they've got good deep prospects.
They can trade their prospects
Aspects.
on defense.
Aspects.
For forwards. So that's not necessarily, a struggle, but they should be drafting forwards.
Yes.
Whether or not that's Hershey or Millen Patrick, and then they acquire more draft picks is, up for debate, but it'll be interesting.
Excuse me. I mean, the perfect forward for the Flyers, as I see it, would be someone like a Yamamoto. Because he's highly skilled, he has a lot of upside, and simply put, he brings a lot of offense to this game. But that being said, generally speaking, in terms of success of NHL teams going deep in the playoffs, more centers is always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But good thing, like one of the key reasons that I've been vouching for the Oilers to pick up Yamamoto is that there's a lot of comparables to Eberle right there, including the fact that he's a right winger, and we're picking 22nd.
Yeah, if you can guarantee that Patrick would be healthy, the Flyers, I think, should take him. Giroux, I think he's actually already on his way down.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, you got to start thinking about the future there as well. Voracek had that one unbelievable year, and I don't think he'll ever get that again.
He had an unbelievable year this year as well. He led his team in scoring.
Well, then Giroux, at the very least.
If I were to...
He captained Canada at the World Championship, but he's not getting 90. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
So you gotta start thinking about the future and replacing him.
But the way that I describe the Flyers' offense best is just inconsistent. It's like some games they'll be out there and scoring like 5 or 6 goals, and then they'll go on like 5-game stretches where they're simply winning just off of outscoring their opponents. Then they'll go on like 10-game stretches where they just can't score. Like every one of their players has gone quiet. And that's like a common theme throughout most of their last few seasons. It's just a lot of inconsistency from their offense. And then you add in the fact that their defense isn't that great, and in this case, young, and they have pretty meh goaltending, and it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah,
Honestly, they need good goaltending.
They went on a 10-game winning streak this year and still missed the playoffs.
Yep. Which, I mean, there's 2 teams that did that, so.
That is messed up.
What's the 2 teams that did that? Only 1 team did that.
Yeah, Calgary did it, but they made the playoffs.
They made the playoffs, yeah.
Oh, sorry, no team made it.
I mean, all the other teams that had 10-game winning streaks lost in the first round, but
that's what I meant. Yeah.
Okay, Flyers hold the record of having the longest winning streak and not making the playoffs.
That's so messed up.
That's hilarious.
It is. So we're good to move on to grades then for players?
Yeah, I think so. We've kind of beat the draft to death. There's not really a whole lot else to do there until after the draft happens.
Okay, who wants to lead this one? Because I usually lead it, but I would prefer someone else did this
My
time.
phone just froze trying to pull up the roster for the Oilers, so it's up to James.
I guess it'll be me.
Congratulations. Thank you for volunteering.
All right. Yeah, so what we're doing here is we're implementing a games played minimum of 40 for the draft rankings. So that's going to exclude players like Puljujarvi, but in players like Hendricks and Greiber are just going to get in under the wire. So players like Puljujarvi, Lander, Davidson, Pakarinen, we're going to skip all of them. So we're going to start with the defense here. So let's start with Greiber, I guess. What do you guys think about Greiber's season? He played 40 games, 6 points, 65 PIMs.
I think it's fairly clear at this point that Greiber is your 7th defenseman on certain NHL teams, and I think if we're a playoff team going forward, and a serious playoff team going forward, Greiber is not the kind of defenseman that I would want on my roster. We all saw that, by the way. Not one on my roster. I think it's especially exemplified by that first game against San Jose where he totally messed up the play and allowed that easy breakaway for Carlson, I think it was, allowing San Jose to win Game 1. So then on that point, I just think a D, and that's a little bit of a generous D.
I don't. Yeah, it's Greiber's a little weird. So it's one of those things where I don't know if I have an opinion on him because he played half the season, but it seemed like he played so infrequently it was hard for him to get in a groove. But it was also hard for us to say that you played well enough where you can play more games.
Mm-hmm. The Yakupov problem.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd say probably a D.
Okay.
Just because maybe a D plus. Like, he wasn't a bad regular season player. He certainly wasn't able to play during the playoffs because his foot speed at times wasn't significant enough. When he was in lineup was because we had major injury issues. I don't think he's a useless player by any means, but he definitely shouldn't be in your top 6.
Yeah.
So,
I can agree with that.
Those weird ones.
I think James is gonna have a similar opinion to ours, but we'll grab his opinion afterward and just move on to the next one. The next player, I think he wanted to continue with defenseman, so I'm just gonna continue with defenseman. I think it's gonna be a quick second here while I switch to the regular season points.
Let's say
it's taking a while. Chris Russell. So I'm gonna let you start, Adam.
Oh, Russell's a tough one.
Yeah, I know.
He played well this season. You can't discount the fact he played well this season. I'm not going to mix my opinions with re-signing him versus how he played. He played well. He stepped up. He played big minutes. Yes, he made some errors. Yes, he had some dumb mistakes. But overall, you can't fault Russell for the job he did for this season, especially with how much he made and what he did play towards the end of the season. I'd say playoff included, probably an A minus.
A minus.
A minus.
What?
When we needed him, he stepped up.
Okay, so the stat line for me with Russell that stands out is the fact that In 68 games played, he got 13 points, which isn't that bad. But Russell, when he started off in the league, was considered to be a power play specialist.
How long ago
and
was
defensive
that,
defenseman. This is before we signed him. He was still in that same category. Yeah.
No, he wasn't.
He was still being played on the power play.
He's been a defensive defenseman for the last 5 seasons at least. He was playing with Andre
but he's
Sekera,
played as a
who is
power
our
play
offensive
specialist as
defenseman.
well. Most of his points that you see there, the 12 points and 1 assist, do come from the power play.
Yeah, that's fine. He's not a power play specialist, though.
No, but I do want to explain because I'm getting onto the 5-on-5 category here.
Go ahead.
Okay? So the problem with Russell comes purely in terms of the 5-on-5. I think, okay, first off, I want to say something. Russell, fantastic penalty killer. On the power play, I think there are better defensemen, but in this case for the upcoming season, say we do re-sign Sekera, I think Russell is a serviceable guy to put up in there, although I would be more preferable to someone like Adam Larson just to see how he would do on the power play. But my problem comes in with Russell in the 5-on-5 play. He's fantastic in blocking shots. He's fantastic in shutting down opportunities. But the problem is that his transition from going from the defensive zone, moving it up, is really, really bad. And it's a reason why, he basically... Did he lead the league, or was it Carlson that led the league in block shots?
I think it was...
Who are we talking about?
Russell. I believe it was Carlson, but definitely Russell was top 2. So let's just keep that there. While it is impressive that he blocks so many shots, it is giving indication that perhaps the reason he's blocking so many shots is because he's sort of trapped in his own zone. And generally speaking, a lot of the advanced stats speak very poorly of him and whatnot. But on the whole, I'm going to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt based upon the eye test, of the fact that he is a very good defensive defenseman. The problem is, in this day and age, there's more to defensive defensemen than just blocking shots and shutting down opportunities. Transition is a big part of the game as well, and that's where I have my qualms with Russell. That being said, I think he had a fantastic season on the whole. There were definitely parts in the season where he stood out on a sour note, but I think one of the key reasons a lot of fans were hugely on his side this season was because in past seasons there would be the defenseman that made a key part of the game is happening, and then, the defenseman makes a really bad mistake. Most of the time, Justin Schultz. Chris Russell was a guy that would make sure to shut that down before the mistake get any worse. But the one part that didn't really stand out to fans was that after he shut it down, there would then be a cycle by the opponents in our zone. And that's where I have the issue.
Or if he did manage to get possession, all that he would do is shoot off the glass and out, therefore giving the other team possession again.
Yes.
And I never noticed that until the playoffs, but
yes,
man,
that's where it really stood out in the playoffs. Yeah. So on that point, I think he's a very good 3-4 defenseman. And in my opinion, a 3-4 defenseman is your stereotypical average defenseman in the hockey league. So my average mark will be a B-, so I will give Chris Russell a B-. Adam gave him an A-. James?
Jesus. I must not like him as much as you guys.
I figured you'd be giving the worst mark, but...
Yeah. I don't know. Just the fact that he has no puck-moving ability. What he does it well, but I don't find that it's not an exceptionally rare skill.
If I were to interject really quickly, James, I think the best way to describe it is that he's really good at playing without the puck. But when he has the puck, he's most effective of getting it to someone, get it to someone else, just so he doesn't have to play it.
Yeah, I'll give him a C+, and I honestly feel like that is generous. I don't like Russell. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's
it's important to disclose that despite the fact that I gave him a good grade because I think he had a good season, does not mean that I think he's the best option for the Oilers moving forward.
Yes.
So
yes, I would agree with that.
I'm not saying they should re-sign him for $6 million a year. I'm just saying that I thought he had a good season for him.
Yep. Yep. I would agree with you on that front, Adam, and that's why I didn't go because I would normally go for James's grade, but I definitely liked the aspects in his regular season that stood out to me. So really quickly here, your Grievous score, James.
Um. Jeez, I don't know. I'll give him a C. He's your number 7 defenseman. For him, actually, I'll give him a C plus.
Oh, okay.
For him, he's what you want a number 7 defenseman to be. He's not terrifically skilled, but he's not scared of anybody, and he gives you 110% every shift. He was dog shit in the first game of the playoffs against San Jose. I'll never forget him getting burned on that overtime goal. But yeah, C.
Yes,
C plus. Yeah.
Okay. Adam, are you writing these down by chance or no?
No, because I'm streaming, right? So.
Oh, okay. I will write these down. Do you guys? Let me pull up a WordPad here really quickly. You can go on to the next player in the meantime.
Okay. So the next one that I see here is Darnell Nurse. So we have 11 points in 44 games, 33 PIMs. Yeah. What is his? He got 2 assists in 13 playoff games. Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Nurse to me.
I think he.
Sorry, go ahead, James.
He was a lot better before he got injured. But after he got injured, it was almost near the end of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then he came back in the playoffs, and I don't know. He was chaos in the playoffs. He wasn't bad, but he was chaotic, and I didn't really trust him. I didn't trust the Oilers in the playoffs unless it was Klefbom Larson on the ice, really. So
yes, I am inclined. I will definitely support that opinion.
As far as a letter grade, I'll say I'll say a C plus.
Adam?
Yeah, I think Nurse to me is kind of an enigma this year. Like he was playing fairly well before he got injured. He would have moments where his age showed, but at the same time he was making progress. And then he had ankle surgery, and when he came back, he started slow. His foot speed wasn't there. He was out of time. His touch wasn't great, and then he got to the playoffs, and everything kind of ramped up. And Darnell's play ramped up as well, but not to the level that the average player would be at for the playoffs. That's not to say that he played poorly, but like James said, it was just kind of chaos. So he'd have moments where he'd make an incredible play, and then immediately get stuck in defense end because he'd shoot the puck backwards, or the one that comes to mind I think was against San Jose when he had no pressure on him and he just ring the puck around the boards to I can't remember who was on the boards, and they scored a goal and ended up winning the game.
Getzlaf.
Yeah.
It was Getzlaf.
It was a great pass, but again, it's one of those things where it to me it was like watching Nikita do it, and it's just like, why the hell? I get Nikita had no foot speed. Darnell Nurse can skate, so to me that's at that point it seemed like either the coaches were instructing him not to skate, or to me more so probably Darnell didn't have as much confidence in his playing ability or in his skating ability at that point, and was more inclined to just rain around the boards.
I feel like that it's definitely the latter. I felt like he was anyone else can have it. I don't want the puck. Yeah, that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah. And just to add on that, I think one of the things that all of us like Nerds for is the fact that he has good skating ability.
Absolutely.
And it'd be really, especially like when you saw the Anaheim defensemen play the way they did, and the Nashville defensemen and whatnot. Their best, like when they were able to stand out best offensively, was when they were skating the puck in and forcing the forwards to make bad decisions while transitioning into the offensive zone, and that's impressive. But that's sort of how you need to play now in today's NHL.
Yeah,
So Adam, what was your score?
I think I'm going to give him probably the same grade James did, a C+. I don't know if it's fair to judge him on post-ankle injury play just because, or entirely on post-ankle injury play just because that's a major surgery. And it's hard to get back from mid-season and then jump right into the playoffs. So C+, he had his moments of both good and bad. I'm gonna wait to see next year for sure.
Okay, I'm gonna go a very similar route, and I'm gonna give him a C. I'm just giving him a C because I thought, comparatively speaking, in terms of an average NHL defenseman, I felt as though he wasn't quite at a C plus level. He was just below that. Now, mind you, I think this is a lot based upon the fact that his injury affected him the way it did. But to put it shortly, during the playoffs is when it really stood out to me. Again, we shouldn't be basing a lot on the playoffs, but recency bias is just a human kind of bias. And to me, whenever we were hemmed in the zone, the two defensemen that were on the ice were Nurse and Benning, and that was too much of a common theme in my opinion. And that's why Nurse, while I should be getting more of a benefit of the doubt, he's not going to, because I got to be fair here. What was your score to Greiva, by the way, Adam?
I guess at a D.
D?
Same as. Oh no, Greiva. Yeah, I had the same as you. Sorry.
D or D, right?
D.
I put a score of D. Okay. James.
For Graba?
No, we're good with Greiva. Next player.
Oh, okay.
You get to pick.
So next on the list is, let's jump around here a little bit. Let's go Clefbaum. So
that's quite the jump.
Clefbaum is the team's number one defenseman, I would say, going forward here. So last year, what have we got here? 38 points in 82 games, plus 7. Average time on ice, 22 minutes and change. And, what do you guys think?
I mean, is there really any way to say that he wasn't stellar this year?
I mean, the best way to describe it is that the only thing that is keeping him from being considered a top 2 defenseman in the league, and I say the only one thing because it's literally only one thing in my opinion, is the fact that he doesn't put up more points. That's it. Like, he's just, and up to this point, I was always of the opinion that Clefbaum, the greatest thing that he brought to the game was the fact that he could score a lot of points in a season. And, he's growing and he's advancing as a defenseman. But one part about Clefbaum's game that really came into the fold this season is the fact that he's really good at shutting down his opponents. He is exactly what I want Russell to be more of, in that he'll shut down the offense, the chance for the opposing team, and transition the puck forward. That was Clefbaum's strength this season. And, that's honestly that's a flaw for me. And that's the only thing that's keeping me from giving him an A and instead giving him an A-. But I think he was a phenomenal defenseman this season.
Yeah, he was great.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give him...
Sorry, James.
No, go ahead, Adam.
No. Go.
Fine.
Stop being Canadian, James.
I'll give him an A- as well. I think that he was phenomenal this year. When he was on the ice, I was pretty much always calm. I didn't feel like there was chaos. There was an offensive element to his game that I didn't think would be there before. His offensive zone starts are about 50-50, so he's getting a lot of tough starts. I'll give him an A-. I think if he scored maybe 10 more points a season, that would bring him up to an A+.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You're good, Adam?
I think it's funny looking back to last year because we had Clefbaum out for 50, 60 games.
Something like
52 games.
Yeah,
he only played 30 games that season.
He had a staph infection. He was injured. Then we had a staph infection. We didn't hear anything. Then he had surgery. Then he had...
Actually, to note for this season, I'm just going to interject really quickly. This is the first season Clefbaum has played the entire season for.
Yeah,
and he has not been injured.
So he got, especially for the boots, everyone was wondering if his career was over. Could he skate more? He wasn't even good by the end of the season. And then he comes out and proves everybody wrong in the best way imaginable.
Yes.
He had a career year in every sense of the word. He led the team's defense core to, respectability for the first time in a decade, and the fact that he pushed us to the playoffs. we found he had a big shot this year. We'd seen he could shoot the puck, but not consistently. This year we found that he might actually be able to be a relatively good PP quarterback. Maybe not top, but he could be a power play quarterback.
He could do it. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where we discovered more about Clefbaum as a player, but also as an overall well, not really more. We discovered more of him as a player, both returning from injury and as progressing as a young player. So I'd say A-, potentially even A, because he was stellar this year, especially returning from that major surgery last year.
Just as a quick note for any of our viewers, if you are experiencing any kind of lag issues, please do type it in chat. I'm seeing that there might be some problems, so just do let us know. Adam, you gave him an A?
Yeah.
Yeah. Next player.
Larson. So 19 points in 79 games. He was plus 21, which take that as you will. Offensive zone starts were about 47.5%, so that lets you know that the ice is tilted against him a lot of the time. So he's not brought in to score 35 or 40 points. He's brought in as like a main shutdown guy. What do you guys think?
I'll start again with this one. Definitely, I think one common thing that a lot of people don't take into consideration is that when a player is traded to a new team, it takes them a while to adjust, adapt, and then thrive in the new system. And that was definitely what we saw a lot of from Larson. I was generally unimpressed. While a lot of fans were very happy with the consistency that Larson brought in the first few games, I was unimpressed with the fact in terms of what he would bring in terms of offense in the first few games. And that was a concern, and I was unhappy-ish. But definitely speaking, the chemistry that he developed with Clefbaum has washed that from my mind. Like, the moment that Larson has the puck, I'm no longer concerned. I'm like, Larson's on the ice, Clefbaum's on the ice, we're fine. And that definitely turned into the most common theme, in my opinion, for our defensemen, outside of, Benning and Nurse being trapped in their own zone. In the whole season, and in that perspective, I'm just going to give them the exact identical score and give them both A-, because I think there's definitely more offense in Larson to give, but he plays sort of like Nuge did this season, a little bit more conservatively, and I just like him to just come out of his offensive shell just a touch.
Okay,
defensive
fair enough.
Shell just a touch.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll give him. I think I'm kind of echoing what you said, but a lot of what I love about Larson is the stability, and you can say that it's boring, but I don't think that it's boring. I think that he still manages to play a relatively exciting brand of hockey, and when he's on the ice, my heart rate drops. It's great having him and Clefbaum on the ice together. Also, to sort of echo what Arun said, I think he has more offense to give. When I see him skating with the puck, even when I see him shoot, I'm always thinking, like, why don't you score more? And I think he's got...
He did in Game 1 of Anaheim series.
Yeah, I think he's got like a couple 30-point seasons in him. I'll give him a B+.
I'll be right back. Adam?
I'm going to say A-, just because, like Arun said, it did take a little bit for him to get adapt, but after he did adapt, I thought Larson was a quality defenseman all around. He would move the puck well. He isn't extraordinarily fast, but he's fast enough to get away from pressure. He's way more physical than any of us expected.
He's a solid body.
Yeah, and he throws a ton of hits. He throws them hard. He throws them clean. He separates... The biggest thing for me is he separates the man from the puck without putting himself out of position. And that for a defenseman is huge, because if you can do that, that means you have another tool in your toolbox where if you have a speedy forward that's, with good hands, so you're playing against Goudreau, if you can just hit him without taking a penalty, without putting yourself in a position, then that's the ideal play there. So to me, I think he was quality this year. I give him an A-. I do think he needs to provide more offense. He can provide more offense. Even like we saw with Larson last year, where he said, over the summer, he said, I have more offense to give. I think, I have a good shot. I've been told to use my shot in the past, and he did it for a bit, but not to the extent that I think he can.
Yeah, I think that he's got some more offense in him as well. So hopefully for next year when he's settled into Edmonton and fans have finally turned the page on the trade, then maybe he can open up a little bit more.
Speaking of which, kind of off on the side, and I guess it's a Ruins one right now, but with that trade, do you think that the fact that the Oilers made the playoffs and Larson was a big part of it definitely softened the blow in the trade, or I guess helped everyone move on eventually?
Mm-hmm. Is that your question?
Yeah, that was the question. Sorry.
Oh, I thought that was like half of it.
No, sorry.
Do I think that helped people move on? I guess. I mean, winning solves all problems. Honestly, like that's what it is. That's what it comes down to. If you win games, people don't bitch. So
now
that's really as far as that needs to go.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right. I'm not gonna bring more theoretical situations into this because we need to get through the grades.
Yeah. All right. So you guys did A minuses. I did B plus for Larson.
Yep.
Next on the list is Matt Benning. So 15 points in 62 games.
He only had 15 points?
52%. Offensive zone starts were about 57%, so it was pretty soft starts. Yeah, what else kind of jumps out at me here? Average time on ice was about 16 and a half minutes. So, he's a third pairing defenseman, but what do you guys think?
I think that offensive zone starts and the ice time speaks for itself. Especially when you came into the playoffs. I know a lot of people are generally happy with Benning, but the problem with me was that I think there was a lot of rose-colored glasses going on where they saw him and they saw, what he could be as opposed to what he was right now. And right now, I think he's he provides some offense, yes, but there's a lot of still problems in his game, primarily in the fact that he sucks in his own zone. Like, he really does. It's the best way to put it. He's absolute, not absolute garbage, because in my opinion, Schultz was the worst in his own zone. While he was on the Oilers, he's been phenomenal for the Penguins. Let's be honest here. But Benning is just a lot of unnecessary mistakes. He does very similar things to how Russell does it. But the thing is that Benning is supposed to be an offensive defenseman. Where he's supposed to be putting up points and he's supposed to be good at transition, and he's really been bad at transition. And I think that's a big theme there. To compensate for that, he started to play more aggressively and then take just a bunch of penalties. He had one Anaheim game where he took three minor penalties, right? And that's just, in my opinion, they're minor stick errors, and that's not acceptable. Stick errors, stick infractions are stuff that you should not be taking. You can understand, maybe roughing penalties are generally uncommon in the playoffs, but stick infractions are a fault of your own.
Yeah, unless either laziness or getting caught out of position.
Or not knowing how to play physically and trying to play physically. Because that was sort of how we saw it with Benning. So with me, Benning was a solid C for me. Because he still brought some offense.
I think you can, he's third pairing, he's a rookie, he's growing, so you can allow some mistakes, but at the same time, some of the mistakes he did make were unacceptable. A lot of the, you were mentioning, stick infractions towards the end of the season and playoffs where play ramped up a bit, where he found himself out of position. His skating generally compensated pretty well for it, but there were times where he did have to hook a guy or you give him a slash and take a penalty just to make sure they didn't capitalize on a mistake that he had made. Coupling that with playing with Darnell Nurse, where he was making his own mistakes, it was third pairing was a bit rocky, to say the least, towards the end of the year. But that said, I don't think Matt Benning came in and did a poor job. I just think that he's a rookie. Every rookie's gonna have stuff to work on. He's certainly not the exception.
Right, of course.
So I'd go with probably a C as well.
C. James, do you just echo what we say, or do you have something to add?
I think he is a rookie. Yes, he turned 23 just a couple days ago. So honestly, I think that what you see is probably pretty close to what you're going to get for him. I know that defensemen take a little bit longer, but I'm not anticipating a huge growth in his game. He wasn't highly regarded, so I don't think he's going to come out of nowhere and become like a top form puck moving defenseman. 30 points or whatever. I think he's pretty close to what you're going to get. He did take some pretty fucking atrocious penalties in the playoffs that made me want to pull my hair out. I'll give him a C. He wasn't great. I think that the Oilers fan base overrated him a lot.
Yes. I think up there in terms of most overrated players by the Oilers fan base, Benning is definitely there. Along with Russell. I mean, what? Next player?
Sekera. Andrej Sekera. So what have we got for Sekera? Just let me pull him up here.
Okay, Adam, did you want to start real quick?
I think Sekera was arguably tied for our second best defenseman this year.
35 points in 80 games plus 14.
He was solid. He was our offensive defenseman that we needed last year. I think he played well last year. I think he ramped it up again this year. To me, he played well. He moved the puck well. If we talk about Russell as a player not being the greatest, I think Sekera gave him the ability to be able to play defensively and not be as good at moving the puck, just because he had that option to pass off to Sekera, to give a breakup pass, or to move the puck up the ice, to take that offensive chance. And I think we obviously saw Sekera be a playoff god in the beginning of the season. And I thought he was very good this year. It was really unfortunate that he tore his ACL, because it's going to put him out till about next December. It's not a fun thing to deal with. I can tell you that right now. Because you feel fine if you fully tear your ACL. You don't feel a lot of pain. It's really swollen, but you don't feel pain. You go, okay, well, I could go back out there, but the moment you try to put any weight on it, your knee collapses. It doesn't work.
Just give me a quick second.
So I feel for him, and it's a long road to recovery, and luckily it's a relatively good process in the terms of success rates. So it shouldn't be anything major, but it's unfortunate that we had to lose him there, because I think he was on such a tear this season that it's interesting what he might have been able to do in a Duck series if he was present for the last couple of games. So I gotta give him I'd say an A- this year.
Okay, I think I'm gonna go with an A- as well. Yeah. I think at the beginning of the year, overall, he was the number one guy for the first quarter of the season. I think he was the number one guy until Klefbom sort of took over that role. But he's good at pretty much everything. He does throw a decent number of hits. He's not pushed off the puck super easily. He is a pretty calm player. He's quite smart. Plays 21 and a half minutes a game. He's got no obvious weaknesses is kind of what I'm getting at here. I've really come around on him since they did sign him in the summer of 2015. So yeah, I'll give him an A-.
Adam, what score did you give him? A-?
A-, yep.
Okay, I'm gonna give him a B+, mostly because I think it might have been majorly the fact that he was just injured, but definitely, I felt as though he had a much harder time, perhaps because of his defensive partner, at transitioning the puck out of his own zone. He kept getting hemmed in a lot, and he didn't give me that same level of, calmness and consistency that either Larson or Klefbom brought on the ice. But that being said, there's no denying that the first third of the season he was our best defenseman. So on that point, I'm not going to go any lower, and I feel sort of bad giving him a B-. But I think just to average out our scores here, he's definitely our third best defenseman this season. Especially after considering we're in the scores, including both playoffs and regular season. Next player.
I think that does it for the defensemen. So I'm going to go to the goalies here now. The one goalie that qualifies for criteria is one Cameron Talbot. You may have heard of him.
We are not worthy.
Yeah, he played 73 games this year. Goals against average of 2.39, save percentage of 9.19. Minutes played 4,294. Wow. That's crazy.
Okay.
That is nuts.
I don't think they're like, okay. So there's one word that really describes Talbot's game that he brought for us this season, and that was just consistency. Like, yeah, he would have that bad game, but then again, like, even like Price has bad games, right? But the great thing about Larson was like he followed up that bad game with like a phenomenal game the game after. And he just was a goddamn workhorse this season. And like many people, like after seeing the finalists for the Vezina, were questioning why isn't Talbot on that list? Not Oilers fans around the NHL.
Yeah,
right? And that I think just exemplifies the season. For me, it's a very clear A+ this season.
I'll give him an A. He did have a couple of dud starts. He did get pulled in a playoff game, I believe, and like you said, though, Arun, he always did bounce back, but there were a couple of duds, so that A for me.
Well, I know for a fact he's in Mexico right now. He's the best man at a wedding my boss is currently at. So yeah, and I'm not kidding.
Tell your boss to get an autograph.
My boss's sister is getting married to I guess one of his friends. So yeah, he's enjoying Mexico right now. Well earned in my opinion. I'd give him an A. I don't think he could have honestly played any much better than he did, and any better he probably should have won a Vezina. On nights where the Oilers played like garbage, he rescued them. On the nights where the Oilers played very well, he was solid enough to give them the wins. In the playoffs, he was exceptional at keeping the games level, even when the ice was tilted so hard against the Oilers that it should have been 9-1 in the first period. And he always, regardless of whether or not he played well or poorly the night before, he always followed it up with if he played poorly the night before, he followed up with a good night the next night. It was never that he had 2 or 3 bad nights in a row. And that's huge on a team that's especially on a team that's learning how to win, that's learning how to grow as a team, that's learning how to progress and make the push for the playoffs. That's huge. So I give him an A.
Yeah.
All right, so that's our one goalie. So we're going to switch quickly here to forwards. The first one that I'm going to pick out of this list, I know his name, I just can't find him on the list. Where are you? There you
Hendricks.
are, Matt Hendricks. Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
Matt Hendricks. There he is. Okay, so what we have here
Matt Hendricks
is 7 points, 42 games, average time on ice 10:45, Corsi 44.6, offensive zone starts 39.5%.
He played 42 games.
He didn't feel like it, hey?
That's my first question. Is that just he was so
I think
invisible.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason that he feels so invisible is because, he played 42 games in the regular season. In the playoffs, he played 0 games.
Yeah, but
that's why he felt so invisible.
Even in retrospect, I don't remember him playing half the season. Like, I remember him being injured and him coming back, and we were talking about how, we didn't really kind of want him back on the ice because it was the fourth time he was playing well. And Matty Hendricks has been a servant to the Oilers and the game for a long time, but I don't think he's the worst forward on the team now. Just
yes.
He has no foot speed he has 0 foot speed to speak of. He's not playing well enough to justify playing over other players that we have, and in that sense, I think he's the worst forward on the team. Not that he's the worst forward in the league, just we have better options now. So
on the team, yeah.
To me, D. He did as well as he could for his age and his ability, but D.
Yeah, he turns 36 in June. Quite honestly, like his Oilers days, I would say, are done, and likely his NHL days are probably.
He might get a contract a while. To just
he might get it. He might get like a PTO
Yeah.
in the fall, somewhere, and he might sign somewhere for like $1 million 1 year or something like that. I don't know, but I can't imagine the Oilers bringing him back. For me, he's a D as well.
D as well. I'm gonna give him a D minus. I think there was a lot of opportunities. Like the thing for me with Hendricks that really stands out is that he gets a lot of chances to shine. He gets opportunities in the top six, sometimes in the top line at times for a game or two, or like a few minutes. But he never sticks onto the opportunity. Even when he's on his fourth line, it's Letestu that shines or Pitlick that shines. So it's not necessarily that he was riding on coattails per se, but at the age of 36, it's rare that you get chances to get those opportunities. But he just wasn't able to. 35, wasn't able to capitalize.
Yeah. All right. So what do you give him? D minus.
D minus.
Okay. Next is Slepyshev, 41 games, 10 points. Corsi of 46%. Average time on ice about 11 minutes.
See, I'd like to know what his adjusted Corsi is, because I think he got a lot of defensive zone starts, didn't he?
Offensive zone starts, they're about 50-50.
50-50. Okay, for me, I thought Slepyshev had a really good season. Perhaps the reason that it stands out like that was because, he did score 3 goals, 3 very key goals in the playoffs. All of them mattered, all of them winning games as far as I can remember, sorry. And he really stood out in a positive light. He was able to be what you need from a top 9 forward, where they can play the third line minutes and flex into the second line minutes. One key thing, though, for me with Slepyshev, and I've said this fairly consistently, is that he needs to shoot more, because he can score if he shoots more. His shooting percentage this season was, while 7.3 in the regular season, it was 16% in the playoffs. And I think he just needs to bring a little bit more consistency to his game. That being said, I'm going to give him a C+.
Okay. He got 55 shots on goal in 41 games.
Not bad. It's over a shot.
Yeah, not bad. I'll give him a C. I think kind of what you said is accurate. He's able to step into the second line if needed. He just needs a lot more consistency.
Yeah. Mind you, if he extended his point production over a whole season, that we're talking about 20 points in a season, which isn't that bad. But we definitely see a lot of potential there, and that's where we're souring a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, if we look at him, he played more in the last half of the season than he did in the beginning. He had to gain the coach's confidence, and he did, and then he started playing more, which is why I saw his step in the playoffs. For me, I think he actually does shoot a fair bit. He doesn't hit the net on 90% of his shots. For me, Slepyshev, when he has the puck in the slot, it's either going top shelf or it's going 20 feet wide. And so for me, it's one of those things where it's almost the opposite of Hemsky, where it's Hemsky's shoot the goddamn puck.
Shoot.
With Slepyshev, it's
that was a common theme.
Hit the fucking net, please, or something nearby. It's just
yes.
My God, he has a crazy good shot, but it's like those video games.
Consistency.
It's absolutely consistent. It's
exactly.
Where it's the target's constantly moving, and you're trying to time the shot properly, and he's just constantly a few seconds off, where it's just gone that way, and it's okay, well, close enough.
So what's your score, Adam?
I think I give him a C+. He wasn't terrible. He definitely had strong aspects to his game, but he definitely needs to work on certain things like shooting at the net and not 20.
Next player, I'm assuming we're going with the games played list, is Caggiula.
Yes. Okay. So Caggiula is next here, 18 points in 60 games, average time on ice 13-14, Corsi percentage 47.6. Excuse me.
Oh. Caggiula was up and down.
Yes.
I think we as a whole, or at least you and I, Arun, have a love-hate relationship with him. Because I think you and I are both kind of in the boat where, yes, he's good. but we felt he was a little overvalued and certainly
Very much so.
overpraised by a lot of the fan base and
Fan base, analysts, coaches,
media,
even.
yeah. And what I was hearing didn't quite correlate with what I was seeing on the ice all the time. That said, he still has a lot of offensive potential. He was pretty good as a rookie. He certainly stepped up and played when he had to, and his game did progress as the season went on. Was he as good as I thought everyone else thought he was? Maybe not, and maybe that's just because I think I tend to see more mistakes in his game that maybe other people don't find are mistakes, which is whatever, fine. But I think he's probably at a I think probably same as Slepshot, C plus B minus. I don't think he was terrible, but he could have been better.
So C plus or B minus?
I'm gonna say C plus.
C plus. I'm gonna go next. Sorry. Very similar. I'm gonna give him a C plus. For me, I just want him to work on. I think he's gonna develop a little bit more naturally, primarily from getting used to playing 82 plus games in a season, because he played 60 games plus the 13 games in the playoffs, and I think there was a lot of getting used to playing in that situation. Which for a 5'10", 22-year-old at 185 pounds, that's quite impressive. That while he was playing with 13 minutes a night, he did the offensive. He had the offensive production that he had, but he needs to stop taking stick infractions. It was just a lot of stick infractions in the especially the playoffs, where it really stood out. Like, he had one game where he went out there, took a stick infraction, came back on the ice, and then the next shift right after, he took another stick infraction. And stick infractions are just from you either being tired, lazy, or just being a step too slow. But it is an error to make. It's not necessarily like an unforced error or something that the call can go like any way. It is something that you shouldn't be making in the NHL. So on that point, I see a lot of potential in him, but I just feel he's really overhyped. Like right up there with Benning, in my opinion. So I'm gonna be a little bit harsher and give him a C, but it's like a really I sort of don't want to kind of C.
I'm gonna give him a C as well. Nothing new to add.
Okay.
Super. I think he was pretty overhyped though.
Yeah. Next player.
All right, next player.
And his name is Benoit Pouliot.
No, we're not doing that list anymore. We're mixing it up. We're gonna go with Connor McDavid now.
Holy Jesus. Okay. Okay, so awards that Connor McDavid has won this season: our hearts, our souls, the Hart Trophy,
firstborns.
our firstborns, the Art Ross.
He's in line for the Lindsay.
And pretty much a freaking huge ass contract.
He's in line for Lindsay.
He's in line for Lindsay too. I don't think he's gonna win it because Lindsay is voted on a month before the season ends to prevent recency bias, and most of McDavid's points came at the end of his season. He went on a 14-game point streak. We put up 25 points. What?
That's crazy.
That is crazy, dude. That's where he went from 75 point total to 100 points. Mm. He hit out triple digits, and that hasn't been hit since Jamie Benn did it.
It was 2 years.
2 seasons ago. Yeah. So long ago.
Yeah. I'll give him a soft A plus.
Soft.
A soft A plus. Yeah.
Soft A plus. Got it. I think it's really clear here that McDavid is the best player in the team, and I think one of the things that blows all of our minds is that definitely, I think we can all agree, there was a progression this year where he went from being like McDavid to McDavid. Like, he just kept improving, and that's what blew me away.
Yeah, and I mean, he's 20. Mm-hmm. He's gonna fill out. He's gonna be faster. Stupid.
Stronger, harder, better.
Stupid. Yeah.
Our work.
All right, so A plus is all around.
Yep.
Yes. Next player.
All right, next player is Mark Letestu.
A plus is all around.
So.
Now are we talking for his role? Because for his role, I think he played a B plus this year.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
35 points in 78 games. That's like just below a 0.5 in terms of scoring. He definitely had a 13.2 shooting percentage. And he was just he's third place in power play points in the playoffs.
Lethal.
Not among the Oilers, but against everyone.
Offensive zone starts at even strength were 35%.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was played in that role too.
I mean, the only issue I see is that if we expect him to play like that next year, because he won't.
No.
That power play production is just unheard of for a player
Yeah,
of his aspects. But with that said,
So, really quickly to add in here, he was second on our team for points in the playoffs.
Yeah. It's just,
and he didn't have the highest shooting percentage.
It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, he had a great season, and I think that warrants a B+, but I don't think he's gonna hit there next year, which is fine, as long as we don't, as long as he doesn't expect to get a massive contract off of it. I have no issue with it. Letestu was solid. Was a good workhorse. He played Letestu. Took tons of defensive zone draws. Was our best centerman, best power play forward, good penalty killer.
Okay, what's your score?
I said B+.
B+. James?
B+, yeah.
B+. I'm gonna go purely off of his I don't want to be that recency biased here. But one thing is for absolute sure, he had a phenomenal playoffs. Like 100%. He had more points in the playoffs than McDavid did, and we gave McDavid an A+. So come on here, guys.
Come on, guys.
Come on, guys.
Come on, guys.
Come
on, guys. He also had the second
most.
Okay, final stat. He had the second most shots of any player in the playoffs. For the Oilers.
Benoit Pouliot.
Tied. Oh.
67 games played, 14 points. Corsi of about 48%, 49%. Time on ice, 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can go first. You're a fan of him.
I don't like giving Fs, but this is a pretty easy decision. He was a real dud this year. I'll give him an F.
Okay, that's an F. Adam?
Same. He had moments where he decided not to look like total crap, and then followed up by looking total crap. So F.
I'm not going to be that cruel because definitely I thought, this was an off season for him, and I'm going to rate him based upon not him per se, but NHL average, and he was definitely an NHL forward this season. But that being said, there was a lot of downward progression, and I'm hoping this doesn't turn into career downward progression and more just an off season. But I'm going to give him a D-. All
right. Patty Maroon, 81 games, 42 points. Corsi of about 53.5%.
What's his zone starts?
Plus 13. Offensive zone starts were about 58%. So pretty soft starts, but that's okay. He got 27 goals. So what do you guys think?
For including the playoffs, probably a B.
Really?
B or B+. Yeah, I mean, he really fell off in the playoffs. Towards the end of the season, when he hit a hard cold streak and never recovered, and when he got moved from Connor's line, he never really produced.
He had the fourth most points in the playoffs.
Yeah, again, when he got paired back with Connor. When he got removed from Connor's line, playing poorly, he didn't produce anything. I love Patty. I love what he brought, but without Connor, it's kind of been shown that he's not going to flourish on the Oilers, which, fine, whatever. He's a great match for Connor, and you need to find players that work with the star players, and we've seen that with Crosby over years. It's really hard to find good players for him to play with. You can't just pair stars with stars and expect it to work. So, I think B is probably a little too harsh because he did have a fantastic season. He had a career year. He was a life force of the Oilers for a while. I'd say B+.
Okay, James?
I'll say B. He did have 27 goals, but to sort of reiterate what Adam was talking about there, he as soon as you move him off of McDavid's wing, the production plummets, and he's half the player that he looks like he is on McDavid's wings. You know, he's riding off of McDavid's coattails basically, which is fine. You know, that happens with star players. It just sucks that he can't do anything on his own. But that being said, he did get 27 goals, so a B.
I'm gonna give him an. I sort of feel bad in terms of consistency, but 27 goals this season, all things considered, is uncommon, and especially with the amount of scoring that we're seeing dropping in the NHL, really uncommon, and really a welcome change to see from a forward that usually doesn't produce that much. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna be a little bit as a hesitant A-, simply as a like to average it out kind of A-. But the key part of his game that really, that's one thing. Actually, I agree with you on the fact that he doesn't flourish on his own. But if you look at his career, that's just how he is. Like the most points that he puts on is when he's playing on the top line, on the second line.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's not a bad player.
But that's how he's always been.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. He's not a bad player. Yeah. He's a complimentary player more than anything else.
Yes. I'm not going to fault him for being a complimentary player, so I'm going to give him an A-. Okay, next up, Kassian?
Next up, let's do Kassian, yep.
24 points, 79 games, 101 penalty minutes, 110 shots for 6.4 shooting percentage. What's his zone starts in Corsi?
I'm pulling it up here.
Yeah, move on. And in the
computer.
Playoffs,
47.4%, 50-50 offensive zones.
Okay. And in the playoffs, Kassian had 3 goals on 19 shots for a better shooting percentage. Nope. Worse shooting percentage than Slepyshev in 13 games played, along with 27 penalty minutes for the second highest on the team. Double checking. Yes.
Well, he did get 3 goals in 13 games, but he got 0 assists.
Yeah.
3 goals all came in, 2 games?
Yeah, it did. And he was named, oh my god, he's got round 1 MVP.
I arguably think he was, to be honest. In round 1, he did dominate the hell out of the Sharks.
I think it was Talbot.
I mean,
2 shutouts.
I'd argue Talbot and Kassian. Kassian definitely stepped up. He was our best forward in that series.
Clefbaum too was amazing in that series.
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, I think Kassian, if 24 points, probably had about 8 or 9 goals taken away at the very least from reviews. He probably led the league in goals removed. He was up there certainly, but I'd say probably B-. He had a good season. He wasn't exceptional, and he stepped up at the right time, but he wasn't godly in any way, shape, or form. So I'd say B-. Good.
I'll say C+. I'll say C+.
B-.
He wasn't, like you said, he wasn't ungodly. He wasn't crucial to the team's success for the most part. That being said, he's brought his career back from the brink, and that needs to be acknowledged. So hopefully he can build on his successes for next year.
Well, and in all counts, he's now sober for over a year and a half, so it's good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, considering I gave Kajula the score I did and Slepyshev the score I did, there's no denying that I need to give Kassian a B-. Generally speaking, I consider him the example of an NHL average forward. I think there's it's a case of what James said, is what you see is what you get now with Kassian. So I think fans should stop expecting Kassian to be a top 6 forward and just see him as a top 9 forward that he is. That's just a fan's comment there. Next player.
Draisaitl, 77 points in 82 games, average time on ice just under 19 minutes. Corsi was about 52%.
And he led the Oilers with 16 points in 13 games in the playoffs. Both in goals, in assists, and points, and plus minus.
He had a pretty phenomenal playoffs,
He is a Ducks killer, so makes sense.
I'll give him an A. I think that he needs to next season. What I want him to do is demonstrate that he can really handle his own line, be the centerman on his own line, and not McDavid's winger. But I will give him an A.
For me, the stat line that stands out here is two parts. One, a positive one. He had 10 power play goals for us this season. The only forward with more power play goals was Lucic with 12. And the other stat line that stands out to me is that his shooting percentage was a team-leading 16.9%. And he scored less goals than McDavid this season. So I really, 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 really want him to shoot the puck more. And it's not from like if he shoots more, he'll score more kind of perspective. But like, I think Eberle is the perfect example now of a player shooting at a higher percentage doesn't mean that they'll shoot at the same percentage their entire career. So for me, it's an A, but I still think it can become an A- into the future. I mean, A+ into the future. Whoops. Okay, Adam?
I mean, he was a top 10 scorer in the league this year, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
that's something that has to be acknowledged.
That, while acknowledged, also was off the coattails of Malkin missing the last, 18 games a season.
It happens. It's, Dre stayed healthy. Malkin's had injury issues his entire career. That's, one of the reasons he's not one of the best 100 players ever.
Oh, don't do this to me, man. Don't do this to me. Don't put that kind of evil on me, man.
So, I mean, it's I would say A, just because A+ I already reserved for Talbot and McDavid.
Yeah.
So I'd say A. He can improve certain things in his game.
Wait, did you give Talbot an A? Do you want to give him an A+?
No, I think A is probably good. So I'd say yeah, okay, probably A for Dre as well. Like he was good, not great in every night. Needs to show that he can carry his own line, which I think he did towards the end of the year. But certainly good signs for the future to come, especially if you come into your second or third season and finish top 10 league scoring. That's normally a pretty good sign. So.
I think the best way, the one thing that he needs to work on is consistency, and that's the only thing, really.
Yep.
Next player? We're on the last few here.
Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. So in the 2016-17 season, 43 points in 82 games, -10, 17 minutes, 42 seconds.
200 shots on net.
200 shots on net, yeah. So offensive zone starts are about 50-50. Corsi was about 49%. What was his face-off percentage?
It was bad.
42 or something.
Mind you, McDavid had a worse face-off percentage, but it's like 43%. I'll check. It's 45%, rounded up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. He's not expected to be an offensive dynamo anymore. I think that we've kind of accepted that's what he is. So, if Draisaitl stays on McDavid's wing, Nuge is the second line center. If Draisaitl drops down, so does Nuge. It's.
I have a correction to make. His regular season face-off percentage was 44%. Playoffs was actually higher.
No.
Okay. So, I don't know. I'll give him. Jeez, he was a really frustrating player this year. God, I'll give him a.
What? Jesus.
I'll give him a C+.
You also gave Slepyshev a C+. You're saying they're the same player?
It's relative to expectations.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd say Nuge. I don't know, man. He had a rough year.
He did.
He could not
second year
buy a goal for so many reasons and times.
So to add to this, in the playoffs, he had the second most shots. I said there were three players actually with 33 shots on net: Letestu, Maroon, Nugent-Hopkins. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is the only one among those three with 0 goals to show for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they were.
And we're talking like save of the game, save of the playoffs. was against Ryan Nugent-Hopkins.
He
That's
had
the kind
to.
of like he couldn't buy a goal.
Yeah, it's he had posts. He got. I mean, we can't fully make excuses here. Nuge had to be better this season. He was not good. It took him a while to find his game. He wasn't ever really super detrimental to the team, but he was often invisible or non-efficient, and that's the biggest problem is when you're paying two guys $6 million a year and one, can't score in the entire playoffs. It's concerning.
Mhm.
Nuge just had two bad seasons in a row. I don't expect him to have another bad one, whether it's here or elsewhere. Just because Nuge is the type of guy, it seems like that if something's wrong, he'll try to fix it as best as possible. I see him. I think I go with maybe a C plus.
C+. Wow, you guys are cruel.
He had a terrible
Okay.
season, dude.
He had a terrible season offensively, but defensively, I thought he had probably his best season so far. And as Todd McClellan put it, I felt as though one of the key reasons his offensive game was as bad as it was this season was because he got so focused on playing so defensively that he needed to take a few risks here and there for offensive chances, and he didn't go about doing that. And you know what? At the age of, 24, 25? Let me double check here. 24. I'm not too concerned about that being just a growing pain. I still think there's a lot of offense left in him, and he definitely needed to bring more offense. That being said, compared to league average, I consider him a slightly worse Kessler, and I just mean that offensively for this season, mind you. That being said, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins really did bring it. For talking about that aspect, it was just that quite literally couldn't buy a goal. He was. Connor McDavid led the team with 251 shots on net in 82 games. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was one below Clefbaum in shots on net with 200. And among those players in the top four, or top, I don't know, like up to Draisaitl, he had the second lowest shooting percentage and the lowest of any forward.
So what's your grade?
Sorry, I just want to make a defense here for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins because it feels like he's being unfairly treated here. And I think the key thing that stood out to me in the playoffs was the defensive role that he was being assigned for, where he's getting a lot of starts against, Thornton's line, Getzlaf's line, and so on. And he still managed, team lead of 23 shots in the first round. But he couldn't buy a point. And, when it comes to that, I can't help but give him more than a B. So it's going to stop up at a B for me. Last player? Or last two players, Lucic and Eberle.
Lucic. Let's do Lucic. So
you're saving the best for last.
Lucic, in the 2016-17 year, he got 50 points. Corsi, 51%. Time on ice, 17 minutes. Offensive zone starts, 55%. And PIMs were 50. 50 PIMs for him. That's pretty low.
It is low. It's actually
that's a career low. That's a career low. So for me, he was not Milan Lucic for large stretches of the season. But when he was Milan Lucic, he really was Milan Lucic. Mm-hmm. Overall, his offense production was average. It was right in there for his average career, maybe a little bit on the low side, but hopefully he can bounce back next year. I'll give him a B. Yeah, I thought he was pretty good, but he was invisible for long stretches.
Yeah, I think that consistency is definitely what we're gonna miss. We've been told by Bruins fans that he hasn't exactly been the most consistent player over his career, but when
Kings fans too.
Yeah, when you're a leader on the team and a sought after free agent, you kind of have to maybe be a bit more consistent. You're a veteran. You're not a rookie now. Not even consistency in points, but consistency in play or effort from game to game was absent at times. That said, he still played fairly well. Like you said, James, when he was on, he was fucking on. I thought he showed up towards the end of the season, especially when we were pushing the playoffs. He became more present every game. He became more effective. He'd throw bigger hits. He would make bigger plays. He won us individual games at times.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, so with that said, yeah, I think I'll give him a B.
B. I'm going to be a little bit kinder here and not grade him to him, but rather league average again and give him a B+. I felt as though, while 50 points is low for him, it is still, in a team of, so many talented forwards that have put up so many number of points, there is an expectation that some players are just going to have less points than they usually do. And that's sort of what I saw from Milan Lucic. Definitely, I think this is turning into a common theme with this team, is consistency is the big factor, which really you shouldn't be seeing from one of your veteran forwards, a 28-year-old. Double checking here. Yes, 28-year-old. But it was definitely a factor. But that being said, it's sort of like Maroon, where it's something that he's brought from most of his career. A stat that stands out to me is that he still put up 23 goals, but his shooting percentage was really high at 13.1%. So while he did put up more than 20 goals again this season, there is a chance for that to drop a little bit. That being said, considering his body of work this season and compared to league average, I would have to give him a B+.
Eberle. All right. Eberle, I believe, is the last one on the list.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So Jordan Eberle, the new whipping boy of Edmonton, 51 points in 82 games, Corsi of about 53%, time on ice just under 17 minutes, offensive zone starts about 55%, shots on goal 208, no GWGs, which is kind of weird.
That's weird, yeah.
But still, 20 goals. What do you guys think?
I think one statement puts it best is that this was his worst career year. It's his worst career shooting percentage. It's his worst career point totals, unless someone can double check that for me and I'm wrong. Worst goal totals. All along that entire line, he just did not have a good year at all. But that being said, 51 points for the worst season of his career. I don't know. I don't consider that as like a really horrifying thing. Definitely, we missed him most was in the playoffs, which is really disconcerting considering that, there were other talented forwards on his team, and he was the one that at times was really dragging that line down. But that being said, my score for him is, I got to look at league average here, compare it to, his career a little bit and all other factors and playoffs as well, and I got to give him a B. I can't. While I thought he had a really bad year, I think we're being generally unfair by giving them ridiculously low scores because they had a bad season, but it was still really good compared to NHL average.
Okay. We'll do a B-. I'm trying to split it up in my mind, like regular season, playoffs, get an average. I'll do a B- for his. You know what? I'm gonna say a C+ for his regular season. 51 points, 20 goals. Like that is a top 6 forward production. Period. If that's your lowest, if that is your lowest point, like you're doing okay. I think he's being treated really unfairly. For his regular season production being soft or whatever, you know what I mean. That being said, playoffs, like they were an F. He just wasn't there, and I think he's deserved every bit of criticism that he's got. So averaging it out, I'll say. In fairness,
I think in fairness, he definitely brought it in his first 2 games, but I don't know what it was, maybe exhaustion or something, and he's just disappeared because most of his points came in like the first 3 games. Basically, all his points came in the first. He got 2 points, yeah.
Yeah, okay. His playoffs were an F for me. So,
yeah. The sad thing too was that he just didn't get many shots on goal either in the playoffs, and that's something that he had claim to fame in the regular season. It's 22 shots for him in the playoffs.
What do you think, Adam?
I don't know. I mean, he's been heavily criticized, to say the least. He's the new whipping boy in town, apparently. To put up 51 points in the playoffs, then or in the regular season go 0 in the playoffs is
2.
They're 2 in the playoffs is a detriment to the Oilers in every sense of the word. But to say he had a god awful season is not entirely correct. He had a bad one. He didn't have a god awful one.
Bad season. Yeah.
The biggest thing that was missing for me this year was consistency. Eberle's always been a player who's consistent.
Of consistency. Yes.
He doesn't produce 80 points a year like Hall did, or 70 whatever. But he doesn't.
He did once.
He doesn't consistently over the course of the year. He's that player that you can expect to get a point from every game or every 2 games throughout. And this year that was really lacking. Like he wasn't. You'd go to a game, you didn't know which Eberle would show up. You didn't know if he was going to produce chances everywhere. You didn't know if he was going to toe drag around people and go bar down, or he was going to fall over and turn the puck over and have a goal against.
Yeah.
And that's not something we're used to seeing from Eberle.
Yeah.
And were some of the criticisms in the playoffs valid? Absolutely. He played like garbage. He shouldn't have been that bad. He's an experienced veteran. He's not used to NHL hockey for sure, or not used to playoff NHL hockey, but the performance was unacceptable. That said, averaging out like James did, I'm going to stick to a B- just because I think 51 points in regular season is still top 6. I'm right in between C+ and B-, but I give him a B-.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just wanted to correct a quick stat here before we conclude really quickly. Eberle's worst season is actually the lockout shortened season. But when you're looking at a points per game perspective, his worst season was this season. He has 2 other seasons where he scored less than 50, but he's played less than 70 games both seasons.
Yeah, so his PPG this year was worse.
He played all 82 games this season.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Take that as you will.
I think...
do we want to do a quick no power play or penalty kill? I think that speaks for itself with the NHL average. Goaltending score? Or not goaltending, coaching score? Adam?
I guess B. McLellan got out-coached at times by Carlisle, which, we 5 years ago we'd have laughed at, but this year I think you could say more that Carlisle's obviously adapted. But
yes,
being out-coached in the playoffs is not something that should happen regularly, and it's pretty normal for McLellan at this point, which is not encouraging. But, he also managed to get the team from, 28th in the league to playoffs?
Second round.
Yeah, so...
And you know what? You're here for that point. I think I was in the comment thread in the post game after we got eliminated. But goddamn, this team was the second worst team last year. Right?
So, yep.
And we're this place. That's impressive.
I mean, if you look at it, that's in line with Babcock too. Babcock took the Leafs from, and we were second in the division.
Last.
We weren't a wild card team. We were second in the division. And it's the only reason we didn't win is the Ducks had.
We had more wins than the Ducks.
Yeah. So the only reason we didn't pass them is that the Ducks had more overtime points.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where should the coaching staff have adapted better to playoffs? Yes, but they did a pretty good job of finding line mates that worked for each other, finding systems that worked, finding strategies that worked, and bringing the team that was garbage to respectable within a year.
Right. No, I agree. James, really quickly. James, hello?
I'll say B plus. I think that they did a lot of line blender moves that worked sometimes, and I think that they were not scared to make moves that needed to be done. Lucic was brought in to this team to be McDavid's winger. They didn't take off right away, so they put Maroon there. They took off, they weren't afraid to make big changes, and the long and short of it is that they got to the second round of the playoffs, and part of that has to be on coaching. So I'll say B+.
Yep. I will respond to that point about Carlisle. I think Carlisle generally had a lot of tools available to him. T-Mac really didn't, and that's where I'm quite impressed with him. He had to make do with the fact that, he was a little bit more understaffed, or not understaffed, but like less tools in his toolbox available to him. And the fact that we weren't a team that went about adding in the trade deadline, and we weren't sure where we were going, and no, he made do with what he had available to him. So I'll give him an A-. And I think the most common theme that really made him stand out to me this season, because I was really sour on him at the start of the season, the middle of the season, especially with the line blending and whatnot, is the fact there was a progression. And eventually, I could see the rationale in his moves, in that he would put the blender on at the beginning of the season, yes, but as the season went on, he would keep it more consistent and change it if it was necessary partway through. And last one, GM.
GM.
This is absolute last one, don't worry. I can just start it, and then you can go ditto.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of his major moves.
I think in terms of GM, the scoring here has not just looked on this season, but the last 2 seasons. He definitely made about going a lot of, Shia made a lot of bold moves. Definitely the Larson move. There's moves that he got burned for. I would say the Larson move he got a big burn for, but that's looking a lot better in retrospect now. And definitely he got burned for the Reinhardt trade. Although, there can be other factors that can be said about that. That being said, we've been generally happy about his drafting, the fact that the team that he's put together, although a little bit unhappy in certain aspects, like the contracts that he gave out, and the fact that he had to lose so much in certain trades. Though, we're not in the back offices, and we can't say for sure, what the conditions were like. So I will give him an A-, and pass it on to Adam.
I don't know. I'd say a B. Probably B+. We made some good moves. I still think we signed Lucic for far too long. I still think we technically lost the Hall trade. Although that's looking a lot more even now. The Reinhardt trade still doesn't look great. But the other acquisitions he's made, Lucic has been a good forward. Talbot's been fantastic. The draft picks so far look okay.
Well, let's look really quickly here. Talbot was a gift by, a retirement gift by Slater.
I mean, he still made the choice to go for him rather than picking Niemi or someone else.
It was a really cheap cost, but it was true.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the price we paid is justified. I'm just saying that the move was right. Yeah. So, I'd say overall B+.
B+.
I'll go with B. I think the Lucic one really stands out. I think that's okay for now, but the last couple of years of that contract, I think, are really going to suck.
Okay. On the whole, if I were to take everything together, I think generally the team was at a B, A-, B+ kind of level. There's definitely, we're happy because there's room to grow. Sorry for the very, very long podcast here today, guys, ladies and gents. So wrapping up at 2 hours and 3 minutes. Thank you very much for joining us for Oil Drop Podcast number 43, Return of Oil Country. Oh, you stopped it.
No, I didn't.
It says stream complete. Oh, there we go. Stream resumed. Hi there. So thank you very much for joining us for this podcast. This has been the trio of us, myself, Arunatic, Arunatic 5, others known as Arun Thomas. With me today was James, otherwise known as Paul-McCartney- and Sweet44722 on Reddit, otherwise known as Adam Larson. Thank you very much for joining us for today, especially you, Mr. Larson. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time. See ya.